His buckle collar, now it's going to need adjusted probably here pretty soon. See how snug this is?
Yeah.
That's how snug you want it. Because
Like
that way,
One finger?
barely, just a finger.
Okay.
Because that way, you see he's got one of those, he's got a pencil neck,
Yeah.
and essentially his back skull is really not that much wider than his neck. So if he pulls against it,
It could slip out.
it can slip out. All right? The reason we use the chain collar is because it disables his ability to escape. That's it. But with him, we found out pretty early on, the chain collar wasn't a sufficient deterrent for his pulling and acting like a moron. So we ended up starting with the prong collar
Yes.
with the chain collar backup. Now basically, I want to fade the prong collar as quickly as possible. And only for you are we really going to be using the prong collar and the e-collar. Because I want, if you want to do all these obediency and cool stuff, we're fading this stuff as quickly as we can. Okay? So when he's in his crate, he can have this on. That's it. He can't have any other equipment on. Unless
Yeah, we
he's
just take it off because we're concerned about him getting hung up on his crate. Which
well,
could be
if it's snug like this,
it
it won't happen. All right. Normally here, he's in an airline crate here. He's not in a liner. Yeah, he's in an airline. And basically, there's no projectile problems or anything.
Oh, I see. Right.
But basically, if you're going to have him in a wire, it might not be a bad idea to have him naked. But in a situation where this is your
Right.
first line of defense, because starting from this day forward, we don't just open the door and free willy. Okay, because he does a little bunny hop thing and woohoo.
Yeah.
woohoo.
Right.
So what we do is we
right.
extract him physically from the crate. He has to sit. We put his equipment on, and then we take him out the door.
That's what we always do when we take him out because he doesn't have a collar. I'm afraid he doesn't have his collar. So
He's had to sit.
he had to sit from day
I guess
one.
he stopped doing
Yeah.
that.
You open the door and he's like, wow! So what we do
We'll
is
get
teach
back to
him.
that.
We've taught him.
Yeah.
We extract him from the crate. You sit. We put our equipment on you, and then we walk out. And what we do is basically with the slip chain, we just simply put it on him as he's coming out the door. That way we can control him. He has to sit. He has to heel to the door. He has to heel down the hill. Then we take him to go to the bathroom. Then we get to play. Then we get to work. Then the cycle is repeated however many times you take him out. But good pup, huh? Noisy, you're a good boy. The chain training collar, first line of defense. There's only one way these go on a dog. Okay? And if you've trained with them before, you should know it. What I do normally is I attach the leash to the running link. Okay? So basically what we do is we make our loop just like so. So from your perspective, it looks like a P on its belly.
Yes.
All right. Now, if the assumption is the dog works on the left side, all right.
Right.
When we go here, have a seat, big guy. Sit, Chunky. Thank you. You simply slide it over his head. Good pup. So that the live ring that you attach the leash to comes from over his head to his right side, because that way it releases automatically. All right.
Right.
If it's on backwards, it won't release at all. That's where it gets its horrible name, choke collar, because some moron put it on a dog backwards. And the dog was gone. Like that. Yeah. All right. The prong collar. What pocket did I put that in?
Must be in the
No, I stuffed it in a pocket. I just need to find the right pocket. Because,
He looks like he wants to help you find things.
he does, because the pocket, my pocket has stuff in it. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. I did not modify this collar. This is a very fine piece of equipment, so it's real bendy. And the reason we put the chain training collar on as a backup is because if he should happen to exert enough pressure on the prong collar, he can open it up and take off. We don't do that. So we always have some form of a backup, okay?
Oh, so it's break away.
No, they bend, they try.
Well, feel how soft that is. I mean, I have weak little girl
Take
hands.
those links and
See how
take
soft
them
that
in
is?
and add them, subtract them, so
Right.
they're bendy.
All right, now, because this is a little bit more of a refined piece of equipment, you have to be really careful how you use it. You can't jam a dog on it because you're going to light him up, and that's just not appropriate. Simply. It's size for him. It should be good for another month or two. It's actually like a link too big. But the reason, the way you know that it's fit correctly is when it's relaxed. You see the spacing? When you pull on that, these ends should not meet towards that central ring. There should be some space there. Okay? If it's too if there's too much space, they'll meet that center. Each end will meet that center ring. That's not what you want. Chain collar on the bottom, prong collar on the top. That way, the prong collar is what's giving you the most effect. Okay? And every once in a while, because this is a little big, you're going to have to futz with it a little bit. Alright? Now, so as you can see, he's got a nice, long, elegant neck, but we're still running out of real estate. Okay? You don't put so much crap on a dog. Alright? I thought we had canceled Puppy Palooza today.
I thought so.
I have canceled it because we've got weather coming. I've got my kennel inspection tomorrow. We've got all kinds of stuff going on, and I'm just kind of like, I'm over it. I got stuff to do. All right. So basically, when you go, you got to put the e-collar on. See that red dot right there? And there's a red dot that mirrors on that side. Now it's on, the green line's flashing means the receiver is activated. Marry the two dots together and now it's off. Put them back together and now it's on.
Gotcha.
Now the receiver is activated differently than the transmitter. The transmitter, it's already on.
Yes.
Alright. The big black button in the back, you hold it until it's off. Now it's
Okay,
off.
gotcha.
Alright. Now, a couple of cool things. This guy at night, probably pretty dark and hard to see, right?
Right.
He's on his e-collar in the backyard. If you press that black button one time while it's activated, watch.
Gotcha.
Oh, nice.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Press it a second time, it becomes a solid light.
Wow.
Press it a third time, it goes away. But it's still on.
Nice.
Okay? Fancy schmancy, huh? Okay. So now, we have the receiver is on, the transmitter is on, we're ready to collar up the dog. Now, because he's a Dober dope and they have no hair, we have to be very cautious about how we do this. I pre-loop it just because it's easier to wrangle him. See how I slide it up underneath the ear, the right ear? Okay? And I snug it down. I don't want to make it real tight. All right, give me your head, you big gooner. But basically, you got about a finger's width of room right there. Now you can cut some of this tongue off. All right,
Right. Yeah, it's a-
but you don't want to take a whole bunch off because he's a youngster. He's still got some growing to do. Okay.
It's a lot.
It's a whole bunch.
It's way too much.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's cannibal freaking Lecter. Okay, I mean, he looks like he's this vicious killer, and he's not.
I know.
All right, but basically, and again, like I said, we want to fade the use of this stuff relatively quickly. All right, for walks, get off of there. For walks and stuff, basically, this is the way you have to think about things. Where you need the most help is where you use the most tools. Okay? Because if you handle this like it's a temporary thing, it'll be a temporary thing. If you handle this like you're going to be depending on these crutches for the rest of this dog's life, that's what you're going to get. And it's a lot harder to train them out of that. Okay? So we use the tools the way we're instructed. So that way, when it comes time to start fading their use, we can start doing that. Okay? Now, he's already had a lot of background obedience. He's had a lot of lure and reward training. He knows what heel means. He knows what sit means. The only thing that we have done is provided a timely consequence. Okay? The difference between him and most other dogs is, one, he's smarter than your average bear. Two, adolescent male Doberman. Hello? Okay? So, you know, James Dean, race car driving, chance taker type dog. Okay? Leave it. So basically, when you give him a correction, quit. When you give him a correction, just like that, he's on a 4. Okay? This goes from 0 to 100. All right?
Oh, I see. 4 is just a note.
It's a
Yeah.
all right. Now, the highest he's worked is on about like a 20 something, and that was when he was really overly aroused. He kind of squeaked out on it, but basically he was kind of like, oh, so now I understand what feel means. All right, but the thing is, low level distraction, you're using low level numbers. All right, high level distraction, you roll through the dial until you get an appreciative response.
Right.
All right, but the thing is basically he works on pretty low numbers. Sit. No, sit. You tap them through until you get the behavior. So there's no conflict. There's no jam, sit. Good boy. Okay. Excuse me. And then by the same token, I'm not saying sit and then beating him up for not sitting. I'm encouraging him to move away from that pressure by sitting faster. There's a distinction. Okay? So one of the problems, and you guys are going to have to come back for a couple of weeks in order to continue that. One of the problems that we have immediately is a timing event.
Yes.
Okay? Because most people are like, sit, damn you, bang! And the dog's like, oh, God. But what we want to do is encourage them to enjoy it. Okay, bud, good job. So what we're going to do is basically